Marlene Thompson had always measured her life in shifts, not the kind you clock in a fancy midtown office with exposed brick and cold brew on tap, but the real ones. Double shifts, wiping the brows of old folks who couldn't remember their own names. 65 years old, skin the color of strong coffee with 2 creams. She still lived in the same shotgun house on Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard in Atlanta's West End. The neighborhood had changed around her like a slow tide. What used to be corner stores selling pickled pig feet and loose cigarettes was now yoga studios and coffee shops with names she couldn't pronounce. But the house? That was hers. Paid for with blood, sweat, and the kind of overtime that made your feet swell like water balloons. She had raised Simone alone after Tyrone left in '89, right after the girl turned 2. No child support, no apologies, just Marlene in her white nurse aide scrubs, pushing a double stroller through the West End with Simone in front and grocery bags in back. "We gon' make it, baby," she'd whisper every night while braiding her daughter's hair. "Long as we got each other and the Lord." By the time Simone graduated from Georgia State with a degree in computer science, first in the family, Marlene had already buried her own mother and sold the little house on Martin Luther King Drive for $2.2 million. Cash, no realtor fees, no drama. Her mama's place had been in the family since the '60s, back when West End was still full of porches and sweet potato pies on Sundays. Marlene didn't cry when the check cleared. She just folded it into her Bible and said, "Thank you, Jesus. This aren't for me. This for Simone." The app was Simone's dream. MedTrack Senior. An easy little thing on your phone that reminded old folks when to take their blood pressure pills, their diabetes meds, their heart tablets. It talked to them in a warm southern voice. Marlene's voice, actually, recorded in the kitchen one Saturday afternoon while collard greens simmered on the stove. "Now listen here, sugar," the app would say. "Time for your lisinopril, and don't you skip it like last Tuesday." Simone had come home one Sunday in 2023, eyes shining like new pennies. "Mama, this is it. This is how we get out the West End for good. No more cleaning Buckhead houses, no more nursing homes smelling like bleach and regret." Marlene had listened, fork paused over her plate of smothered pork chops. "How much you need, baby?" $2 million to start," Simone said, like it was nothing. "Seed round. Chad says we can get it built in 6 months." Chad. That name had slid into their lives like grease on a skillet. Simone met him at a tech mixer in Midtown. Former Google product manager, white boy with a perfect smile, and hair that looked like it had its own PR team. He talked about disrupting elder care and scaling impact. Marlene smiled polite the first time he came for Sunday dinner, but something in her stomach twisted when he said, "Ma'am," like it was a line from a script. Still, Marlene wrote the check. Every penny. She handed it over at the kitchen table, right next to the jar of homemade peach preserves. "This my mama's house money," she said quietly, "and my overtime. 38 years. Don't play with it, Simone. This for the old folks who aren't got nobody." Simone hugged her so tight Marlene felt her ribs creak. "I swear, Mama, you're the co-founder. We're putting your name on everything." At first, it was beautiful. The little office in Midtown was nothing fancy, just a wee workspace with second-hand desks. But Simone called every single night at 9:15 p.m. sharp. "Mama, the developers love your voice recording. They say it's authentic." "Mama, we got our first beta tester, a lady in Decatur who says the app saved her from missing her insulin." Marlene would sit on her porch, fan in one hand, sweet tea in the other, listening to her baby talk about KPEs and user retention like it was scripture. Then Chad started whispering. It was small at first. "Babe, Your mom's emotional involvement. It's not on brand." He said it during one of those Sunday dinners, right after Marlene served her famous red velvet cake. Simone laughed it off, but the next week the call came at 10:30 instead of 9:15. Then it was a text, then nothing. Marlene noticed the Instagram posts first. At MedTrack Senior, sleek photos of Simone and Chad in matching black turtlenecks, standing in front of a new office in Decatur, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a sign that said, "MedTrack Senior, because every elder matters." No mention of Marlene. No photo of the check she wrote. Just Simone smiling big and Chad's arm around her waist like he owned the whole damn company. When the $4 million Series A round hit the news, Marlene found out on LinkedIn. Some tech bro investor she'd never met posted. "Proud to back MedTrack Senior's $4 million raise led by our friends at Atlanta Ventures. Simone Thompson and Chad Hargrove are building the future of senior care. #impact, #scale, #attach." Marlene sat in her living room, TV on mute, and felt something crack inside her chest. Not sadness, something harder. She pulled out the incorporation papers she'd never really read, because why she would. She trusted her baby. Page after page of legalese, founder shares, voting rights, and there it was in black and white. Marlene R. Thompson, 62% equity, majority stakeholder, not advisor, not mom, owner. She didn't cry. She just made a phone call to her old friend, Miss Dolores, the retired paralegal from church. "Dolores," she said, voice steady as Sunday morning service, "I need you to read something for me." 2 weeks later, Marlene stood outside the fancy new Decatur headquarters. The building used to be an old cotton warehouse. Now it had exposed beams and those ridiculous Edison bulbs that cost more than her monthly light bill. She wore her best church dress, the navy one with the white collar her mama sewed in 1998, and carried a manila folder thick as a Bible. The receptionist, a young white girl with a nose ring, looked up. "Can I help you?" "I'm here for the board meeting," Marlene said. The girl blinked. "I'm sorry, that's a closed session. Do you have an appointment?" Marlene smiled the same smile she used on difficult patients at the nursing home. "Tell Simone Thompson her mama here, and tell her I got 62% of this company in my pocket." The girl's face went pale. 5 minutes later, Simone burst through the glass doors, heels clicking like gunfire. "Mama, what are you doing here?" Marlene looked her daughter dead in the eye. "I'm here to remind you who built this table before you decided to sit at the head of it without me." Chad appeared behind Simone, tie perfect, smile tight. "Mrs. Thompson, this is really not the time." "Boy, you gonna call me Mrs. Thompson one more time, and I'm show you exactly what time it is," Marlene cut in, voice low and sweet as molasses but sharp as a switchblade. "Now open that boardroom door." The boardroom was all glass and leather. 5 people sat around a long table. Chad, Simone, 2 investors in suits that cost more than Marlene's house, and a woman who looked like she'd never eaten a biscuit in her life. They all stared when Marlene walked in. Simone tried to whisper, "Mama, please. Let's talk after." "No." Marlene set the folder down with a soft thud. "I've been talking long enough without me. Now it's my turn." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. 38 years of wiping old white folks' behinds and listening to them call her girl had taught her exactly how much power silence held. "I read the papers," she said, sliding copies across the table. 62%. That means when Al decided to take $4 million and not tell the woman who wrote the first $2.2 million check, you forgot one thing. This company got my mama's house in its blood, my overtime, my voice on that app telling old folks not to skip their pills. One of the investors cleared his throat. Ms. Thompson, we appreciate your contribution, but the operational decisions... Operational decisions? Marlene laughed once, short and dry. I changed bedpans for folks who used this app before it even existed. I know what operational looks like when your patient forgets their meds and ends up in Grady ER. You think I poured my whole life into this so my daughter could call me emotional involvement behind my back? Simone's eyes filled with tears. Mama, I didn't... You did, Marlene said softly. But I aren't mad. I'm done being invisible. I want my name on the website, co-founder, Marlene Thompson. I want a real title, Chief Community Officer, and I want veto power on any decision that tries to push family out the door like yesterday's leftovers. Chad leaned forward, all charm and teeth. Marlene, with all due respect, this is a venture-backed company. We have fiduciary duties. Fiduciary, my behind, Marlene snapped, and the whole room went still. She pointed one finger at him. You came into my house, ate my collard greens, and whispered in my baby's ear that her mama was bad for the brand. You think I don't know what you see when you look at me? An old black woman from the West End who don't fit in your pitch deck. Well, newsflash, Chad. I own 62% of this pitch deck. The woman investor actually smiled a little. The other one looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Simone was crying now, quiet tears running down her cheeks. Mama, I was scared. Chad said if we put family first, investors would think we weren't serious. I didn't want to lose everything you gave me. Marlene walked around the table and put her hands on her daughter's shoulders. The same shoulders she used to carry when Simone was too tired to walk home from school. Baby, I didn't give you everything so you could lose yourself. Black mamas don't build empires just to watch our children forget who laid the bricks. She turned back to the room. Now, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Easy way. I'll vote me in, put my name up, and we keep building this thing the right way. Hard way. I call my lawyer. Miss Dolores got her JD from Emory in 1987, and she'd been waiting for a case like this her whole life. We'll be in court so long your Series B will have gray hair. Nobody spoke for a long minute. Then the lead investor, a tall black man in a gray suit, who hadn't said a word yet, started to clap, slow, deliberate. Well, damn, he said. I came here to talk valuation. Looks like I just got a master class in founder equity. One by one, hands went up, even Chad's, though his jaw was tighter than a drum. Simone stood up and hugged her mother so hard the navy dress wrinkled. I'm sorry, she whispered into Marlene's shoulder. I forgot who I was. You didn't forget, Marlene whispered back. You just got lost in all this shiny mess. But I'm here now, and I aren't going nowhere. That night, the Decatur headquarters smelled like soul food for the first time. Marlene had brought 3 aluminum pans in the trunk of her old Buick, fried chicken, mac and cheese, collards with ham hocks, and a red velvet cake big enough to feed the whole block. The whole team sat on the floor in their fancy clothes, eating with plastic forks, because nobody had thought to buy real ones. Chad sat in the corner, quiet for once. Marlene walked over and handed him a plate. Eat, she said. Aren't nobody too slick for my cooking? He looked up, surprised. Thank you, ma'am. She smiled, real this time. Call me Marlene, or better yet, call me co-founder. Later, when the office was empty except for the 3 of them, Simone and Marlene stood at the big window, looking out over Decatur Square. The old clock tower glowed under the streetlights. Somewhere down the street, a church choir was practicing, the notes drifting up like smoke. I'm putting your voice back in the app, Simone said. The original one, not the AI version Chad wanted. Marlene nodded. Good. Old folks need to hear somebody who sound like they've been through something. She reached into her purse and pulled out the original check stub, the one for $2.2 million. She pressed it into Simone's hand. This aren't just money, baby. This blood. This West End. This every double shift I worked so you wouldn't have to. Don't ever let nobody make you ashamed of it. Simone held the paper like it was holy. I won't. Not again. Marlene looked at her daughter. Really looked. The girl was still there under the expensive highlights and the startup lingo. Still the same little girl who used to fall asleep on her lap after nursing home shifts. Outside, Atlanta hummed. Cars on I-20, sirens in the distance, and the low thump of bass from somebody's car stereo. The city that had tried to swallow Marlene whole had just gotten a taste of what happened when a quiet black woman from the West End finally decided to speak. She smiled to herself in the dark glass. The forgotten founder wasn't forgotten anymore. And Lord, she had stories to tell. 6 months later, MedTrack Senior hit 1 million downloads. The new website had Marlene's photo right at the top. Co-founder and Chief Community Officer Marlene Thompson, the voice you can trust. They launched a new feature called Mama's Reminder, her original recordings, updated with fresh wisdom every month. Old folks from every nursing home in Georgia started calling the office just to say thank you. Chad? He proposed to Simone on the porch of Marlene's West End house, right under the mimosa tree. Marlene made him get on one knee and ask her permission first. He did it right. Every Sunday now, the three of them eat at the same kitchen table. Sometimes investors come too, because nothing closes a deal faster than Marlene's red velvet cake and a story about how a single mama from the West End built a unicorn one double shift at a time. And late at night, when the house is quiet, Marlene sits on her porch and looks at the Atlanta skyline glowing in the distance. She thinks about her mama's house, the check, the tears, and the boardroom. She thinks about how long she stayed invisible so her daughter could shine. Then she picks up her phone, opens the MedTrack app, and records one more reminder in that warm, steady voice. Hey, sugar, this Marlene. Don't you forget who brought you here. And don't you ever let nobody make you small again. Now take your medicine and live. She hits save. The app sends it to 100,000 seniors, and somewhere in the city, an old woman in a nursing home smiles in the dark because somebody finally remembered.